Man and Machine is brought to you by Highflex Mobile Hose Service, Shannons Insurance for Motoring Enthusiasts, and the following sponsors.
Yeah, baby!
It's unbelievable.
Bring it on!
Welcome to Man and Machine. This episode is packed full of American muscle, so join me as we check these machines out. Brian Dow, a man who's very passionate about American muscle and especially Mopar. By the way, he loves big engines. Brian, great to be here. Where did your passion for cars start?
As a kid, you collected Matchbox cars and Hot Wheels cars, and that's kind of it for me. Ever since I was a kid, and those Hot Wheels cars, look like little Magnum wheels and Redline tyres. Always loved those, and I suppose I've just moved that into bigger cars.
And I've noticed that you're very keen on the Mopar product. Would I be right there?
Yeah, I've got a real passion for the Chrysler product. Any Chrysler, Dodge, Plymouth. I do like anything really mid-60s to mid-70s in anything American, but my heart still sort of falls back to the Mopar.
They've got balls.
Yeah.
They're mean, they're aggressive, and the marketing and some of the appearance of some of the vehicles is a real standout compared to some of the other cars in the day.
Yeah, I think they were pretty flamboyant, and particularly in a lot of their shapes. I think they had a lot of shape that appeals to me.
And one thing that stands out with me in the Mopar product would have to be the power plants. The engines have always been, I would think, a cut above everything else, haven't they?
Well, I reckon they're known for being strong. I mean, you can certainly give them a hiding and you'll come out usually in one piece still.
I mean, you've only got to look at the 426 Hemi and its success in NASCAR and even drag racing today to prove that theory, don't you?
They're iconic and they must be good, otherwise I wouldn't keep using them like they are today.
You're a bit of a one-stop shop. You build your own cars, don't you?
Yeah, actually I do paint, body, I build my own engines, and I also do the upholstery as well.
It must be very satisfying for you to be able to achieve that result from the ground up, to say, I built that car, I did everything on that car, stand back and look at it and just go, wow.
Yeah, it is nice, although the only downside of doing all your own work is you're your own worst critic. And even though the car might look perfect to others, I'll see every flaw. People lose track. The cars are very valuable today, and I think people spend a lot of money restoring them, and I think they get to the point where they're too scared to actually enjoy them. And I'd like to come back a little bit from that, maybe not quite as highly restored, but I can get out there and have some fun in the car.
Brian, this car looks like it means business.
Yep, it's my hot rod, 68 Plymouth Roadrunner. It's got a pretty nice 440 in it, Indy heads. It makes good power, good fun on the street.
It certainly looks the part though, and that hood scoop looks like it's going to devour somebody.
Yeah, that's what you need, intimidation at the lights when you pull up beside the Chevy boys.
They're not going to mess with you when they see that thing hanging
Nah,
up
that's
the
right.
Yeah. You don't really see that many of them around, do you, the Roadrunners? You see a lot of Chargers and Challengers and what have we, but these are quite rare.
Yeah, in Australia the Plymouth Roadrunner isn't recognised as much as the Challengers and Chargers and other Chrysler makes, but also a car that doesn't look, in my opinion, as shapely in photos. In person it's actually a very curvy car, but in photos they look kind of flat. And I think when people see them in person they really like them.
Well, it gets my heart racing.
Yeah, me too. It's one of those cars that I built that sometimes you just fluke it, and I don't know why. It's just got a really nice balance of being not too heavy in the suspension, but not too soft, and very good throttle response. It sounds really nice outside, but it doesn't deafen you inside the car. It's just got a really nice balance. So it's just one of those cars I often grab just because it's just so lovely to drive. Yeah, I really like it. Yeah, the torque is, it's that feeling under your big foot when you just lean on the throttle. You don't have to look at the throttle and it just wants to go. It's got that edgy feel about it, and there's nothing better than that in a muscle car.
Pontiac Trans Am, what an iconic machine.
The car that you have to have in your collection, I think. because it came through my era in the movies. When Burt Reynolds was driving one around, I was going to have to get one in my collection somewhere along the line. So very comfortable. You can drive it anywhere and also got good power. So I think it's a good combination.
I mean, the movie Smokey and the Bandit had a massive impression on the car community. And apparently the sales went through the roof based on that movie.
Yeah, well, I always think they're a really good looking car on the road as well. So how could you lose? You know, in the movie that was very popular as well as a car that looks great.
Well, the way I see this car is it oozes not only muscle, but it also oozes style. And how does it perform with that big 6.6 litre engine?
It's basically a stock standard 455, so it's not a big revver, but it's got lots of low down torque. And when you put your foot into it, you really know. It just gets up and goes. It's great.
I would imagine it wouldn't be too fuel efficient, but who cares?
If you're interested in these sort of cars, fuel economy goes out the window, couldn't care less. I get people coming to the service station say, oh, that must cost a lot to run. I say, I hope so. I was just at the right age when Smokey and the Bandit came out, and it was always going to be a car that I wanted to own.
The whole look and feel of the car is just so unique, isn't it?
It's very 70s, yeah. You could probably have flares on and you'd still fit in well with the car, but it definitely stands out because you don't see many with that much graphics these days.
Do you feel like you're morphing into Burt Reynolds when you drive it?
I don't think so, no.
And I notice you've got another Trans Am here as well, in the build.
I couldn't resist. It's just a good looking car. It's basically the same car as my black car. It only had a 350 in it, so my son and I, Harry, are in the middle of putting a 455 in it, so it's going to be a real tyre fry. It's going to be good fun.
I'm seeing a bit of a trend here, Brian. Big engines, big cubes.
I like the torque. Yeah, it's nice to have the horsepower. I don't have to have every car that way, but if you can have it, yeah, why not? I want to be able to just look at the throttle and shred the tyres.
Those were also made quite popular by the movie, starring Clint Eastwood.
HighFlex Mobile Hose Service, your complete hose breakdown and on-site service partner. HighFlex Mobile Hose Service offers a complete range of quality guaranteed hydraulic and industrial hose and fittings products. We also specialise in preventative maintenance programs such as on-site hose condition auditing, testing and compliance. With our national fleet of qualified technicians, you can rely on HighFlex Mobile Hose Service's rapid response to all of your needs. Call 1300 HighFlex, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Do you have a hydraulic background? Come and join the dynamic HighFlex team. Check out opportunities at www.highflex.com.au.
Shannons Club, a hub for motoring enthusiasts. So join, create your own garage, share pics, videos and stories of your current and past machines, connect with other enthusiasts. Be sure to watch Shannons Club TV with a host of dedicated motoring channels, including past episodes of Man and Machine. So jump on board with Shannons Club. I'll see you on there. And I see you've actually got a Charger in the build at the moment.
I came across a 1968 and I'm in the middle of body and paint. By the end of the year I'll have that up and running again.
What's your plan for power plant in that car?
It's a stroke big block to 500 cubic inch with Edelbrock heads, a milder cam, something that's actually very smooth and drivable but also have a lot of low down torque.
A stump puller.
Yep. I want to be able to just look at the throttle and shred the tyres.
I mean, for me, I've always been a massive fan of the movie Bullet, the black 68 Dodge Charger, the epitome of bad, but I've got to say, I do love that white and red combo. It looks awesome.
If there's a few original things already missing on the car and it's not an RT or anything particularly special, I like to pick colours, something that's a little bit different that you don't see out circulating around. And I think white's very understated. I think white can, in good condition with the chrome, can look really nice. When
it comes to Chargers, I believe that one of your green Chargers you had was used in the Shannons commercial.
Yeah, I had a 71 RT 444 speed Dodge Charger, which was one of 332, very rare car. I'd had it for about 13 years, I think, and I decided it was time to move it on and get something else. I can't keep them all.
70 GT Torino. This thing looks spectacular, I love it.
Understated and really not overly collectible in Australia. That's kind of good because you don't see many around.
I mean, to me, I look at this car, I look down the rear quarters and I see XA GT.
Yeah, well, they would have been on the drawing board at the same time, I'm sure. Our XAs came out in, 72. You bet your life they would have been looking over the shoulder of the stylist still on the 70 GT Torino when they're doing the XA.
Well, it's all in the same bloodline at the end of the day. It all stems down. And the 5-slot wheels too.
14 by 7.5, which is kind of unusual.
Wow, that's quite a wide rim,
Quite a wide rim, yeah. You've got to run a tall tyre, 70 series tyre to make it look right. But yeah, it's all original. Totally untouched, other than paint, it's a very original car.
And the engine combination?
It's a big port 4V, 351 Cleveland, FMX I think in this one, and 9-inch.
Mate, I love this car. I'm very, very impressed.
Yeah, no, one of my favourites. It's going to stay in the garage for a bit longer yet.
So if I said, can I take it home, I might get a no.
Oh, well, you never know. Everything's got its price.
I'll have to work a bit harder.
I think they're a really good looking car that is not appreciated in Australia. It's basically the same as an XA GT. In fact, when I was building the car, I put the carpet in it out of an XA GT coupe, and they exactly fitted. Every ripple and mould, it was exactly right. That particular car, one of the biggest attractions to me was having the concealed headlight front, which is actually quite an expensive option, and quite often they don't have it, and it just makes the car look a bit meaner in the front.
And I noticed you've also got a later model, Gran Torino 73 here. In
America a few years ago, and I came across one in a paddock in San Diego, 73 fastback Gran Torino, which is a totally different car, full chassis, 4-coil spring, still a Cleveland, C6, 9-inch. Just a much bigger car, a bit like a Galaxy, I guess. Very nice car to drive. Just something a bit different. I like the big fastback. I like anything 2-door fastback.
And these cars were also made quite popular by the movie, starring Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, of course the car in Clint Eastwood was a 72, slight variation in the front, but otherwise basically exactly the same car. Anything in America like that gets popular for a short time while the film's on, then it all settles back down again. They don't really have a big following in America, like other models, but I still reckon a good looking car.
Tell us about the Lincoln. That thing looks like it oozes style and comfort.
It's a very 70s car again, a car that I found in America at the start of the year. It came from a 90-year-old couple, they'd bought it new. Had a very nice original, never been repaired, original paint, original interior, just a real nice original old girl.
They're very much like an armchair on wheels, those things, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, but they've still got a good engine. They ran a 460 and 70 was the last of the high compression 460. They rated them like 360 horsepower, which is pretty good for a big heavy car. So very towy to drive. Got to have something to look forward to, so I've got about 3 more cars awaiting restoration once the charge is finished.
Aeroflow, famous for our massive range of hose, fittings and performance products, now includes Krypton, the ultimate in lightweight hose and fittings. Check out our new 2015 catalogue including air filters, oil filters, hoses, fittings, engine and transmission parts, fuel systems, tanks, silicone hose, exhaust, air conditioning, turbo and nitrous accessories, tools and equipment, plus all your Aeroflow Outlaw Nitro funny car apparel. Get your free catalogue and shop online at aeroflowperformance.com.
Damn, there's just no room under here.
There's no need to do this anymore when you can buy a Tough Lift hoist starting from only $26.50. With over 20 models in their range, including 2-post, 4-post, scissor lift, motorcycle and truck. They're great for storage too. All Tough Lift hoists have Australian standard certification and WorkSafe design registration. With an impressive warranty, in-house technical support and installation options Australia-wide, what are you waiting for? Check out toughlift.com.au.
I love my Tough Lift.
Rare Spares has over 50,000 product lines and releases over 500 new products every year. Your local Rare Spares distributor has what you need when you need it. And as the only restoration company officially backed by Holden and Ford, we take our part in your project very seriously. Rare Spares, more than just a part in your project.
And I believe you've got some other vehicles hidden away, awaiting restoration.
Yeah, unfortunately, obsession does tend to run over you, and I start collecting things that I need to do later.
You're putting them in stock.
Well, you've got to have something to look forward to. So I've got about 3 more cars awaiting restoration once the charge is finished, and the first one, probably next off the block's a 70 Mercury Cougar XR7, which I found again in America. Funny little backstory to it, the car has done 36,000 miles. My story I was told was backed into a garage in 1979 to do some engine head work, and then the owner died. For some reason the family parked the car for 35 years and then decided to drag it out and put it on Craigslist for $1,500.
$1,500?
I don't get that. So something that I picked up through a third party, and it's awaiting restoring. So it's a big port 4V, which is a little bit unusual as well.
So the big 351?
Yes, and just a nice original car, totally untampered with, but sitting such a long time, I'm going to have to go through all the mechanicals on it. So.
And tell us about the Challenger with the slant 6. It's got a slant 6 in it.
Yeah, I picked up a 71 Dodge Challenger hardtop. It had a slant 6 3-speed new process on the floor, which is, I've never seen that combination before. Even though it's cool though, I'm afraid I'm going to have to put something a bit bigger in there. I've got a freshened up stock 383 4-barrel 727, so I'm just going to run that in there. And
I noticed there's a Plymouth there with a windscreen that's looking a bit second-hand. Tell us about that car.
The windscreen was thanks to the shipping, but it is a car I've been looking for off and on for about 10 or 12 years. It's a 1970 Plymouth Sport Fury GT. They only made around the 600 mark.
And power plant in that car?
They're a factory 444 barrel.
Of course.
Of course. But that's how the GT was sold. That's the only way you could buy it.
Here's not a forgettable car, a car that is certainly out there when it comes to styling.
Yep, Plymouth Superbird 1970 in petty blue. A very loud car, hard to hide at the supermarket.
Very hard. I mean, they weren't just built to look this way for no reason. They were actually built and designed for NASCAR, the real deal, weren't they?
Yeah, the original design was a modified Plymouth Roadrunner with front sheet metal, which they modified to make slippery in their wind tunnel for racing at NASCAR. They had a few variations before the Superbird, which they slowly crept up on that mile an hour, and I think this was the pinnacle of this body shape anyway, to get to that speed.
Geez, imagine what these things would have been like on the racetrack, the big 426 Hemi option that they did run in NASCAR.
Yeah, I think the wing at the back, as we know, was just for the downforce, to keep the back of the car down, which they only made that high so that you could they could sell them to the public. But I still wouldn't want to be in the car at doing 200 miles an hour. I don't care how good it was. It's a replica, but I couldn't afford an original one anyway. But it does make it more enjoyable to drive because I don't have to worry about it as much as you would an original one. So very nice, smooth, tight car to drive. And it attracts so much attention. You're lucky to pull up the service station without people asking you questions. And though they don't know what it is or they know what it is, it doesn't matter. They still want to look at it and they want to talk to you about it. So,
and it's 440 power plant?
Yeah, just a regular standard 444 barrel, basically to look correct for the car. In fact, unless you really know what you're looking at, you'd be lucky to tell the difference between it and a genuine car.
They had the 440 and the 426 Hemi option in these cars, didn't they?
Yeah, you get a 440 as a standard engine, and a 440 6-pack motor, and also a 426 Hemi engine.
I've seen some marketing from the period where they had a model, a lady, sitting on the wing just to show how strong it was.
Yeah, it is an aluminium wing, which my car has. It's got mount brackets inside the boot, which are attached to the floor to make it quite rigid. I still wouldn't like a girl on it, but I think you could if you wanted to.
You don't want anyone sitting on your car. We know what these babies were for. They've got that racing heritage, and for that reason, who wouldn't want one? Always wanted your very own muscle car or classic? Then Image Classic Cars is your solution. Where pride, knowledge, quality and service counts for the ultimate experience. From award-winning concourse restorations to full custom builds, muscle cars to classics of all makes and models, right-hand drive conversions, even Australia-wide enclosed pickup and delivery for your pride and joy. Also currently taking orders for the spectacular Image Classic Cars Eleanor Mustang, custom built to suit your personal requirements. Image Classic Cars. Live the dream. A tough car needs a tough oil, and that's when you need Gulf Western Oil. It's Australian-owned, developed and manufactured in their state-of-the-art production facility. So no matter what you drive, you can be assured you're in the right hands for all your lubrication needs. Gulf Western Oil, the tough Australian. ...1970 Plymouth Superbird. What an epic piece of machinery in an epic time. Designed to go racing in NASCAR and dominate on those super speedway tracks. And that they sure did. Effectively, it dates back to the Dodge Daytona, which was a very similar car in format and very similar in appearance. What had actually happened was Richard Petty, the king of NASCAR, actually went to Ford from Plymouth. Now Plymouth thought, we've got to get the king back, we've got to get Richard back, how do we entice him? Let's build a Plymouth like the Dodge Daytona and we'll call it the Superbird. We'll use a similar format, and that's what they did. Now the cars weren't actually designed to look as attractive as some of the other muscle cars out there. They were designed to go racing. They were designed to slip through the air. A lot of work was done in the wind tunnel to make these babies work. Now in that 1970 model racing year, NASCAR said, all the competitors, you've got to build 2 cars for every dealership in the country. So Plymouth had to effectively build 1,920 cars to comply with the regulations to go racing in NASCAR. And that was quite a task. People needed to be able to buy these cars off the showroom floor. But you know what? They did, and they achieved it. Now the cars didn't really sell all that well. If those people back then knew what they were going to be worth now, I'm sure they would have changed their mind. But because of their out there appearance, a lot of them did actually sit in dealerships for up to 2 years. In fact, some were even converted back to Roadrunner specification with a different front and remove that rear wing to get them looking a little bit normal again so they could sell them. Can you believe that? Now you look at these cars and they look absolutely epic. A little bit different in styling to some of our more mainstream muscle cars, but hey, we know what these babies were for. They've got that racing heritage, and for that reason, who wouldn't want one? They had some very unique features. That big shovel type scooping, swooping front nose to slip through the air. That great big rear wing on the back. That was an interesting piece too. In fact, they said the height of the wing was determined by the fact that they actually had to have enough room to lift the trunk lid up to clear it. I don't know. I've got a feeling that they had that thing high for a reason. And some of the engineers back in the day said the higher they made that wing, the more effective the downforce became on the rear end of the car. I think some of these stories, like needing clearance for the trunk lid, might have been a bit of smoke and mirrors to put their opposition off course. Same thing with those unique scoops on the front fenders there. They said that they actually required those for tyre clearance because as the car had that downforce acting upon it, it actually became a problem with tyres hitting on the inner guard. I don't know, personally, I think it was to release a lot of high pressure air from the inner wheel fender area. Because effectively all that high pressure air becomes like a brake. It slows the car down. The rear window was also replaced too. It was made smaller. They put fillers in to actually make up for where the large concave style window was as well. That flat window design actually made these cars slip through the air better. And imagine these things. They were powered by a 426 Hemi. They did 200 plus mile per hour on those super speedways. That is crazy. Over 320 kilometers per hour in today's language. Unbelievable speed. Imagine how that would have felt. What a wild ride that would have been. But it took drivers like the king, Richard Petty, to keep these things under control. He won 8 races in the 1970 model year and placed very well in many more. Now, whilst this car runs the 440 engine option, I've always wondered what the 426 Hemi made in NASCAR race spec. They were rated at 425 horsepower on paper, and I'm sure they had a lot more, probably more like 500 horsepower. So in race spec, what did they make? I've seen some footage of Richard Petty's car back in the day, the actual race car, and it had that camshaft from hell. It was a very, very mean engine. It would have been a serious power plant. Did they make 600 horsepower? Did they make 700 horsepower? I'm not 100% sure, but to make 200 mile per hour, they had to be punching some numbers, and I reckon they certainly were. Now the 440 cube engine was a good engine in its own right. Like anything Chrysler, super, super tough, anything in that Mopar range. It actually ran a low 14-second quarter mile. The 426 Hemi version ran a mid 13-second quarter mile, so it was a brisk car. They weren't light, they were quite heavy. In fact, you might be surprised to know that the Roadrunner version, without the long nose and the big wind, was actually slightly fast over the quarter, because they were lighter overall. These cars really showed their true colours above around 80 to 90 mile per hour. Below that, you didn't see the benefits with the aerodynamics. Now, Richard Petty has actually said that these cars were almost impossible to spin out on the super speedway. He said you'd get the cars sideways where normally you couldn't quite catch it. That great big rear wind would actually capture the air and it would just pull it back into line. Unbelievable, isn't it? I must say that this car actually drives extremely well. Some of the larger cars of the day were a little bit boatish, I'd call them, and didn't really handle that well, but the thing drives straight. It sits so well on the road. You know what? There's nothing like 440 cubic inches to get the heart racing. You just nail the thing and it just accelerates like a bullet. And that's what this car is. It's a bullet. Looks like a bullet, goes like a bullet. Now, the one thing this corporation was very good at was marketing, and they had some fantastic ideas in the day, including the Roadrunner, the famous cartoon character. And this vehicle, this Superbird, was based on the Roadrunner. It still has that graphic on the car. They even had the horn that sounded like the meep meep, just like the character in the cartoon. Have a listen to this. Unbelievable, isn't it? Now, you imagine these cars at 200 mile per hour plus in those early 70s, they would have been a really wild ride. So much so that NASCAR, the governing body, was getting a little bit concerned about safety and tyre technology, whether it could actually keep up with the speeds of these vehicles then. So what they did was in 1971, they decided to change the rules. With these aero cars, as they call them, they could either run a maximum capacity of 305 cubic inches or carry a lot more weight. All the other vehicles could run your big cube engines like your 426s and what have we. So that really deemed these cars uncompetitive, and that was the end of the aero car era. Sad time, but at least they got to run through that 1 to 2 year period to see some amazing results. Man & Machine is brought to you by HighFlex Mobile Hose Service, Shannons Insurance for Motoring Enthusiasts, and the following sponsors.